morning, and thank you once again for joining me for day number 9, 30 Days of Qigong to Better Health. My name is Chris Shelton. Today we're continuing on with these Yin Cleansing Exercises for the internal organs. And the 5 Yin organs of the body, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and the spleen, are mainly responsible for sustaining our vitality from the food, the air, the drink, etc. So today we're working with the lungs, and the lungs in Chinese medicine is considered the most superficial organ of the body, and the reason for that is because of its close connection with the outside environment via the nose and also the skin. So the lungs actually manifest in the skin, opening and closing of the pores, helps to regulate the flow of fluid between the space between the muscles and the skin, and once again also comes in through the nose. So considered the most superficial organ. It also is paired with the large intestine, so besides the large intestine, it also helps to control the function of the colon. And when the lungs get out of balance, what happens is that a person will tend to lack energy. Because this area up here, they call this in Chinese medicine the Sea of Qi in the chest. And the reason why is because the energy from the kidneys, the upright Qi, original Qi, and the air and the food from the spleen and the pancreas comes up into the chest, and this is where it's then transformed into blood. And so if a person has a job, for example, to where they have to stoop over a desk all the time, accountants, tax preparers, etc., then what will happen is that will cut off the qi. But another thing, the qi to the chest, but another thing that will cut off the qi to the chest, to the lungs itself, is the negative emotions of sadness, grief, sorrow, and disappointment. And disappointment doesn't have to be disappointment in somebody else, but it could be disappointment within your own self, not making a goal or meeting a goal that you set for yourself. You know, something that you become very down upon as a result of it being either external or internal. So we see in clinical practice, we actually could tell if a person suffers from a lot of grief by certain lines on their face. And also the person with weak lung qi will tend to have a very soft voice and may also tend to not like to talk that much. They may have problems also with constipation, diarrhea, so problems with their bowels. Though intestinal issues isn't always related necessarily back to the lungs, other organs could play a role in that. But it's something to look at. You know, for example, if you get a cold, a lot of times when people have a cold, they have other symptoms of diarrhea or constipation, depending on what kind of cold that has entered into the body. So we're going to be working with the lungs, and the lungs also house what is known as the energetic level of the Wei Qi. And what is the Wei Qi? The Wei Qi is this invisible bubble that emanates and extends, or is actually an extension of the lungs, and it normally resides several feet around the body. And if you have a hard time conceiving what a Wei Qi is, and at some level you've experienced it, you know, if you're standing in line at a grocery store and somebody walks up behind you, you don't see them or hear them, but you feel them, that's somebody tapping into your Wei Qi. Or if you've ever been sitting at a stoplight and 3 or 4 car lanes over, you feel somebody staring at you and you look over and sure enough somebody's staring at you. That's also an example of somebody tapping into that spiritual level of the Wei Qi. So in theory, what happens is the stronger the lung qi is, the stronger the Wei Qi is, then the greater ability one has to ward off the intrusion of pathogens, i.e. colds, viruses, bacteria, etc. Or even the attack of somebody who has weaker energy. You know, if somebody has weaker qi, they maybe tend to be drawn to you and want to just suck your energy away. And most of us have experienced that also, where we've been in a conversation with somebody, felt great prior to going into the conversation, also the person walks away and you're like, man, I just feel so drained. What just happened to me? Well, that's somebody tapping into that life force, sucking your qi. I sometimes call them energy vampires. And the stronger that this Wei Qi is, then what will happen is it also can help to ward off those types of encounters as well, or help to prevent the side effect of people that have lower energy that just want to draw from you. So very simple practice. The positive virtue that comes forward from the simple practice is the virtue of courage. So because the lungs are the superficial organ, and because of its connection with the Wei Qi, has a shielding effect. And you know, we see people, especially young men, walking down the street and they have their chests shoulders back, chest puffed up. That's supposed to represent this shield or this armoring. So the longer and the more practice that we have in building the lungs qi, then what will happen is that this Wei Qi or this shielding effect will come forth, and then from there, then the courage then manifests. And this could be courage to get you through a certain situation that you've had to endure or have had to experience. Whatever it may be, a very simple practice to do, and once again, you could do this practice anywhere. You do it from a seated or standing position, and if you're doing it from a standing or seated position, it's very simple. After we get done doing our other Yin organ exercises, or Yorgan, whatever you want to call it, we're just going to gather the qi, inhaling, exhaling, opening up. Now the lung meridian emerges from the chest here. It goes internally and communicates with the lungs, and then goes down to the small intestine. But then from here, it emerges here, flows through here, flows through the thumb here, along the radial artery into the pad of the thumb, and then here at the inner corner of the thumbnails. And this channel is bilateral. So as you're doing this practice, focus on something that's created grief, sadness, sorrow, or disappointment in your life. And even if you feel like you've gotten through it, like, oh, I dealt with that years ago, if it's the first thing that pops up into your head, go with it. And you may find as you're doing this practice that you actually will change your focal point, because something else will come up or start to purge up as a result of doing this. But very simple practice. I'm going to inhale. I'm going to pull in, push out. Inhale, gathering the qi into the chest. Exhale, pushing out. And as I do this, I can imagine a dark cloud of energy just going out the ends of the thumbs, several feet away from the body and down deep into the ground. And you can imagine that as a dark cloud of energy. The color white is associated with the lungs, so you could imagine a white color and fill it up into the chest, and then as you exhale, pushing out the grief and sadness, then that moves out the thumbs as a dark cloud of energy. Okay. So starting from our Wu Ji posture, feet are out about shoulders width apart, knees are slightly bent, toes pointing straight ahead. My sacrum is tucked underneath, pressing back the Ming Men right opposite the navel. Gently tucking the chin, which then pushes up on the crown point at the top of the head. And then tip of the tongue gently curled to the roof of the mouth as if saying the letter N. All right. Shoulders are relaxed, hollowed out. Breath is long, steady, even and deep into the lower abdomen. If you're seated and doing this practice, then what you'll want to do is go ahead and sit at the end of the chair if you can. If not, that's okay. If you can tuck the sacrum, that's great. If you can't, that's okay too. You know, these little details, yeah, they make a difference, but if you can't do them because of physical limitations, don't let that stop you from doing these practices, because just by doing the movement and having the mind intent is what will create the change. Or even if you're too weak to lift your arms, just watching this video here and using your mind to imagine that you're doing the movement will create the change. It's where you put your focus. This is what creates the change. And so even if you're not able to do this Wu Ji posture exactly, you know, there's some people out there say, oh, the Wu Ji posture has to be the, you know, there's, 18, 19 different points of Wu Ji, and we need to address all of those. Yes, I mean, that's the functional way of practicing Wu Ji, but quite honestly, not all of us have that physical capability. And my goal here is to give everybody a practice that they could do, that they could then benefit their internal well-being. Okay, so from here, feet are out, shoulders width apart, tucking the chin, breath long, steady, even, and deep. We're going to begin by pulling down the heavens 3 times. Inhale. Just connecting with your higher source, allowing for that energy to flow down through the body, through the feet, and deep into the ground. Inhale. Exhaling, letting go of all rigid thought patterns. Inhale. Exhale. Feeling grounded. And then from there, just clearing the energy, bring the arms up. Inhale, exhale. A little spinal adjustment there. It's always good. But as I inhale, I'm going to imagine white light filling up into the body. As I exhale, tossing out any dark turbid energy out the tips of the fingers, going several feet away from the body and down deep into the ground. Now you can imagine any tension, tightness, pain, discomfort. You can imagine any excessive thoughts, feelings, or emotions. And going at your own pace. Breath is always through the nose and with, unless otherwise suggested, not. And the reason for that is to regulate the flow of qi better. So regulating that airflow into the lungs. And you could do this practice on your own. So even after you're done watching this series of daily Qigong practices, you could pick these apart. If this feels good to you, just do this. Eventually we're going to have so many practices here to teach you. One of the common questions is it, well, what practice do I do? And right now what I like viewers to focus on are these Yin organ exercises. And the reason for that is because we've all suffered emotional trauma, and at some level it affects our health, it affects our quality of life, it affects our mind. And when people are looking for this fountain of youth, it comes from the inside. So the more balanced you are emotionally, mentally, then the younger you'll look, longer, more vitality you'll have. Okay, and then from there, bringing it back to the center and pulling down the heavens again 3 times. Inhale and exhale through the nose, guiding the white light through the outside tissues of the body. Inhale and exhale. And gather, inhale. And exhale, calming the mind, settling your spirit. And from here, we're going to bring the feet a little bit closer together. If you have to shake out your feet, that's okay too. And I'm going to begin to lightly bounce, but this is not a calf building exercise. All we're doing is we're gently stimulating this kidney 1 point behind the balls of the feet, and also referred to as a bubbling well. And from here, we're going to focus on the major joints of the body where energy and fluids tend to get stuck, starting with the ankles, and just allow for any tension in the ankles to release out through the bottom of the feet and down deep into the ground. Next, the knees, releasing any pain, tension, or tightness in the knees, releasing that out. And from there, the hips, groin, low back, any pain, tension, discomfort there. This is a major gate of the body. This is where all of our power comes from. It's also where I believe our sympathetic nervous system takes the brunt of trauma and gets stored. This is why so many people have back problems, SI joint problems, lumbar stenosis. And then from there, now moving up to the back and chest, on the spine, in between the shoulder blades, Shen Dao point. This is a point on the center of the back or on the spine where people tend to hold tension. So if you have any emotional tension, emotions obstructing the heart that may affect this point, just allow for that to shake free as a dark cloud of energy flowing out through the legs, out through the feet, and deep into the ground. And then from there, the fingers, the wrists. Any pain, discomfort in the wrist and fingers, hands, so if you have arthritis, carpal tunnel, moving that out through the fingertips. And from there, the elbows, tennis elbow, pain in the joints, just allow for that to shake out through the fingertips and deep into the ground. shoulders, head and neck. Just relaxing the body, shaking all that out. And then from there, we're going to stop bouncing, and then we're going to inhale, pull the golden light up through the body beyond the top of the head. Exhale and dropping out any turbid chi. And again, inhale. And release. And again, inhale up. And release. And again, just really quickly, going a little bit deeper now into the joints of the ankles, releasing that. And knees. And then from there, the hips, groin, low back. And from there, the center of the back and chest. And from there, releasing out any tension in the fingers, hands, wrists. And there, the elbows. Shoulders, head and neck. Just allow for all that to release out through the arms, through the fingers, and deep into the ground. And then from there, once again, pulling this golden light up, and release. And again, up, and release. And then from there, up, and release. All right, really good. Okay, back into our Wu Ji posture. My favorite practice, shake it off. Shaking the tree, like Taylor Swift song, Shake It Off. Because we're one of the very few creatures on land that doesn't shake it off when something happens to us. Okay, from here we inhale. Starting with the hands, all the way up the wrists, the forearms, the elbows, shoulders, and all the way down through the legs and the feet and the toes. Inhaling all the way up. Deeper into the tissues this time, and releasing it off. Deep into the ground, inhaling, and release. Another way you could do it too is by pretend like you're grabbing two ropes, inhaling, and again. Really good. And then all that heat that's released as a result of doing that practice, just connecting with your source power. Imagine that this white light cleanses and cools the body. And then from here, feeling the white light, getting ready for our practice, and gently closing the eyes and still tucking the chin, keeping the tip of the tongue curled to the roof of the mouth behind the teeth. Connecting those two major acupuncture vessels of the body, the Renmai Dumai channels or governing conception channels. So just focusing, tip of the tongue, resting. Breath long, steady, even, and deep into the lower abdomen. And from here, imagine that you have warm oil that begins to flow down through the front of your body, starting at the crown point. And this warm oil, it touches everything. So starting at the top of the head, you feel the scalp, the temples, the forehead, the brow bone, eyebrows, flowing and pouring into the eyes, to the nose, cheeks, sides of the face, lips, inch by inch, cell by cell, tissue by tissue, from the lips into the chin, to the jaw structure, to the throat, neck and throat, flowing and pouring through the shoulders and upper chest, and now branched off into the biceps. You feel this warm oil as it flows into the biceps, the elbow creases, the forearms, the wrists, the palms of the hands, all the way out to the fingertips. And then from there, we flow down to the entire chest and flanks of the body into the midsection and now into the abdomen. Flowing through the waist, melting down through the groin, through the thighs, through the knees, the shins, ankles, the top of the feet and toes, all connecting, all flowing off deep into the ground. And from there, feel the entire front of your body from head to toe simultaneously. Also feel to the left and right sides of you. Try to stay present with my voice and with your practice to be aware of your entire body. Right now, the front of the body, the left and right sides, and next we start to feel what's behind us. So this warm oil flows down through the scalp, feeling every hair follicle, or if you're like me, just the scalp. And then from there, the back of the ears, relaxing into the neck, the shoulders, the triceps and elbows, and back of the forearms, the wrists, the back of the hands, leading all the way out to the fingertips. And from there, we melt down, relaxing the shoulders, the mid-back, low back, through the waist, through the buttocks and hamstrings, melted down through the back of the knees, the calves, the ankles, feet and toes, all connecting, all flowing off deep into the ground. And now feel the entire back of your body from head to toe, and extend to what's behind you. And from there, we connect with our higher source, our higher power, whatever you may call it, the Tao, God, universe. Allow for this white light to flow down, now illuminating what's going on inside of you, starting with the brain. Feel the brain, the space between the brain and the skull. Beneath the brain stem, the left and right hemispheres of the brain. The nerve endings from behind the eyes that extend to the center of the brain, the bones of the cheeks and the muscles, the veins and capillaries, and the sinuses. Feel the sinuses that connects to the entire respiratory system. Feeling that breath come in. And then from there you visualize and feel the inner ear, the teeth, the tongue, the jaw, flowing down inch by inch, cell by cell, now touching each vertebra from the base of the skull. And you feel the nerves come out from the spinal canals that extend and branch out, controlling the functions of the body. And then from there, from the center of the neck and throat into the shoulders, the upper arms, the biceps, triceps, elbows, and now into the forearms, all the small bones, tendons, ligaments of the wrist, hands, metacarpals, the bones of the fingers, all the way to the fingertips. And then from there, this white light now touches each rib. Feel the ribs as they wrap from the sternum around to the spine on the back. Feel the intercostal spaces between the ribs. Feel in those spaces or those gaps between the ribs. And you feel each vertebra on the spine as though you could physically touch it. Now melting into the lungs. Feel the lungs. Feel the breath come in. Feeling the respiration and the pulsating rhythm of the heart. The protective sheathing around the heart, the pericardium. And flowing now into the liver and gallbladder on the right side of the body, the stomach and spleen. More on the left and into the intestines. And flowing down into the kidneys. And the urinary bladder, the pelvic bone, the sacrum, the bladder. Just feel everything as it flows now into the center of the legs. Feel the bones of the legs, the femurs. The main arteries that flow from the inner aspect of the groin through the inner aspect of the legs, extending and nourishing the feet and toes. The femoral arteries, feel the muscles, the fascia. Feel the knees, the center, the shins and calves, ankles, and all the small bones and tendons, ligaments, leading out to the ends of the toes. And then from there, imagine your feet melt into the floor. And from here, imagine roots growing out from the bottom of the feet all the way down to the center core of the earth. And as we inhale, we could bring this golden light up the roots, up the legs, into the abdomen as we inhale. Then as we exhale, flowing back down, out the legs, out the roots, and down deep into the ground. Inhaling. And exhale. Releasing out any dark, heavy energy. So as this golden light continues to come up, clearing out the digestive system. And if you want, our one practice that we learned, massaging the yang organs, you could actually do that practice while doing this. So as you inhale, arms come up, golden light comes up into the yang organs, exhaling any dark, heavy energy releases down deep into the ground. So either way, you could combine both the meditative practices, or you keep the practices separate, but showing you options. If you're doing massaging the yang organs, now we're just focusing on the gallbladder, the bladder, the intestines, the stomach. And as the hands come up, all this golden light and this nurturing earth energy comes into the abdomen. As you exhale, the arms fall, and a dark turbid chi flows back down, out the legs, out the roots, and deep into the ground. So if you have bloatedness, distension, gas, upset stomach. And then from there, allow the energy to float down deep into the ground. And on the next inhalation, this time we're pulling the energy up the legs, up the roots, up the legs, straight up the spine, stimulating the central nervous system as we inhale, as we exhale, flowing back down the front of the face, the chest, the abdomen, flowing through the perineum, which is the acupuncture point between the sex glands, sphincter muscle. So you inhale, flowing up the spine, up over the top of the head, down the front of the face, the chest, the abdomen. Inhaling, stimulating that central nervous system. Exhaling down through the midline. And you may find when doing this practice, also referred to as small heaven breathing or microcosmic orbit meditation, as I got it listed in my book, Qigong for Self-Refinement. This practice is really good because these two vessels, governing vessel and the conception channel in the front, are like two main reservoirs for which they, when stimulated and fully opened, help to balance out and harmonize the 12 regular acupuncture channels, vessels of the body. Inhaling. Tip of the tongue still curl to the roof of the mouth behind the teeth, lightly squeezing the anal sphincter muscle. Using that as a pump to pump the energy up the spine, but it's not like a Kegel exercise where we're forcing or tightening too much. It's just a gentle squeeze, closing off the lower gate of the body. Tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth closes off the upper gate. And you don't have to move your hands like what I'm doing now, but if it helps you, that's fantastic. Anything that's going to help you visualize the movement of Qi, because at first, this concept of Qi is such an elusive, intangible thing that emanates, and try to, whatever it's going to take to try to make it more tangible for you, using color visualization, movements of the hands, etc. will help. Or you could just stand in the Wu Ji posture and just imagine this circulation going. Feel the breath, guiding the white light straight up the spine, up over the top of the head, down the midline of the front of the face, the chest, the abdomen, flowing through the perineum and up the tailbone, and like a pump, pumping it up the spine again, up over the top of the head, down the front of the face, the chest, the abdomen. Just Just allow for your imagine to guide this life force energy, completing the cycle, completing the circuit, flowing up the yang channel of the back, down the yin channel of the front. And then from there, just allowing for this energy now to flow down into the lower dantian, 1 inch below the navel. And to make sure that you pulled all the excess energy out of the head, we're going to inhale. Exhaling, using the creative visualization. Imagine your higher source releasing out any excess chi out of the head, out of the body. Guiding it down deep into the ground. If you feel any heat or shakiness, allow for that to release also. And again. And exhale. And then from here, going directly into our heart move, we're going to start off with the first few practices, starting off with the heart. We're only going to do a few repetitions just as a reminder. Inhale, center. Exhale as we push. Shifting the weight as you turn to your left, it goes to the left. As you turn to your right, it goes to your right. Now I'm mirroring you, so I'm saying it opposite. If you're following along, you'd be pressing to your right, so I press to my left. Negative emotions of too much joy, mania, but also sorrow tends, because of the close interrelationship of the lungs and the heart, tends to be the emotion that affects the heart too. Loss, if somebody has loss of a loved one. Positive virtue that comes in is love. And it's a universal love. It's all about inclusion. And then from here, we're going to transition into the other way of doing it. If that first way is too difficult, then we just imagine that they're cradling a baby, and then from here, cradling something, and then pressing. Heart meridian emerges from the armpit down the inner aspect of the arm and ends at the pinky, for which then it connects to the small intestine meridian, which then travels up the outside of the arm. And then from here, coming back to the center, I'm going to only pull down the heavens one time here. You can pull down the heavens 3 times if you like. I'm just going to do one as I get ready for the earth move, the spleen movement. And what I'm doing here is I'm following what is referred to as the creative cycle of the 5 elements, or the 5 Yin organs. So the heart feeds into the earth, which is the spleen, which feeds into the metal element, which we're doing today, which is the lungs. So then feeds into the kidneys, the water, and then wood. Which relates to the liver. So working with the spleen, emotions of worry, pensiveness, anxiety, over-intellectualizing will weaken the spleen. Create digestive problems, can create whole flux of other problems. If you have poor digestion, then the rest of the body tends to not operate to its fullest capacity. That's why they call it the earth element. The earth element is a harmonizing force between all the other elements. The inherent nature of the other elements is to compete with one another. And the earth is the neutral, the center point of the body. And as we clear out the overthinking, and the positive virtue of peace of mind comes in. that weighs too hard. Switching. Again, gazing at the palms, and notice how I'm pumping my legs from left to right. Using the legs to pump the blood. The spleen meridian, especially the spleen and liver kidney meridians, they tend to run from the feet up to the chest. So by pumping like this, we're also helping to stimulate those channels. But again, if you're limited on movement because of some physical handicaps or whatnot, just using the mind intent, focusing on this left side of the body, clearing out the emotions of worry. You imagine a yellow cloud filling up in there. Color yellow is associated with the spleen. And as you release it, when you exhale, the negative emotion leaves and the positive virtue of centeredness comes in. And from there, coming back and pulling down the heavens one time. And exhale. Okay, lungs. Inhale. Or gather, pull in. Exhale. Push out. Gather into the sea of Qi. The chest, exhale, push out. Working with the lungs, the large intestine, the colon, and the skin. Relating to the negative emotions of grief, sadness, sorrow, disappointment, the positive virtue of courage comes in. So focusing on something that's created grief in your life. And as you exhale, imagine there's a dark cloud flowing out the inner aspect of the arms, out the thumbs, and the space in front of you and deep into the ground. Push. Push. Once again, through the nose. So if you suffer from eczema, skin problems, edema, dislike of talking, if you suffer grief and have now a dry, unproductive cough, that dry, unproductive cough is a direct correlation to the grief that's now obstructed the lungs. The lungs are also harmed by dry climatic conditions, whether it's natural or artificial heat or dryness. But also wind tends to, even though the wind is the climatic condition that affects the liver, they say that the wind is the driving force for all disease in the body. So feel the grief leave, feel the courage come in. If you have asthma, asthma could be a lung condition or it could also be a kidney condition. So we would ask our clients when they come in, do you have more of a difficulty with your breathing on the inhalation or exhalation? If it's on the inhalation, that means there's a failure of the kidney's ability to grab the air and pulling it down. If it's on the exhalation, it's more of a lung condition. If you have a cold, foods that are pungent are good for to strengthen the lung qi. And last one. And from there, pulling down the heavens 3 times. Inhale. And exhaling, releasing out any excess heat or vibration. Inhale, connecting with your higher power. Exhaling, and disallow for that white light to flow down through the tissues, releasing out any negative energy out of the body as a dark cloud. Third and final pull, pulling down. And then from there, placing the hands over the lower dantian, 1 inch below the navel. As we inhale, we're going to gather the energy of our body and the space around us. As we exhale, we imagine that this white light from this mystical pearl is released into the kidneys and the low back. Inhaling and exhale, filling up into the kidneys. Inhaling and exhale. With each inhalation, the pearl gets thicker and brighter, gathering the energy from the space around you. And then as you exhale, allow for it to release back, restoring into the kidneys on the low back. Inhaling and exhale. Last one. As you inhale, feel the warmth and the white light. As you exhale, feel that warmth wrap around the waist and restore the vitality of the kidneys on the back. And then from there, slowly open up your eyes and just kind of kick out the legs a little bit. Okay, there you go. We're wrapping up day number 9 for 30 days of Qigong to better health. My name is Chris Shelton. Tomorrow we'll be working on day 10 with the kidney exercise in the urinary bladder to help to cleanse out the negative emotions of fear, fright, and shock. So I have a simple saying practicing Qigong that Qigong is a simple practice with profound results.